Everyone knows the movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The screaming victims, the dusty Texas roads, and of course, Leatherface and his chainsaw. The film shocked audience so much that many people believed it was based on a real event. But the truth is actually stranger because the real inspiration wasn't a chainsaw killer at all. It was a quiet man from Wisconsin who rarely even left his house. His name was Ed Gein. And what police discovered inside his home would go on to inspire three of the most famous horror movies ever made. Not just Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but also Psycho and The Silence of the Lambs. But here's the disturbing part. The movies actually left out some of the most horrifying details. In 1957, the quiet farming town of Plainfield, Wisconsin, had a population of only a few hundred people. Everyone knew everyone, which is why the man at the center of the investigation seems so unlikely. Ed Gein was described as shy, awkward, and armless. He worked odd jobs, babysit local children, and spent most of his time alone on the family farm. But people did notice something strange about him. Gein lived in a decaying farmhouse that locals said looked abandoned. Most of the rooms were sealed off, and nobody was ever invited inside. That mystery would end on November 16th, 1957, the day a local hardware store owner suddenly vanished. The missing woman was Bernice Warden. She owned the town's hardware store. When her son, the local deputy sheriff, came to check on the store that evening, he noticed something disturbing. The cash register was open. Blood covered the floor, and Bernice Warden was gone. But one small clue pointed investigators in a very specific direction. The store's sale ledger showed the last customer of the day, Ed Gein. Police went to Gein's farmhouse that same night. What they discovered inside would become one of the most disturbing crime scenes in American history. When officers entered Gein's house, the smell hit them first. Rot, decay, and something far worse. In the kitchen, hanging upside down from a beam, was the body of Bernice Warden. But that was only the beginning. As investigators searched the farmhouse, they started discovering objects that looked like they belonged in a nightmare. A lampshade made from human skin, chairs upholstered with human flesh, bowls made from skulls, and a belt made from human nipples. Even experienced investigators were shaken. But the most disturbing discovery came from Gein's bedroom, or more accurately, his mother's bedroom, because unlike the rest of the house, that room was perfectly clean, untouched, almost like a shrine. To understand Ed Gein, you have to understand his mother. Her name was Augusta Gein. Augusta was extremely religious and controlling. She believed the world was filled with sin and corruption, especially women. She taught Ed that most women were immoral and dangerous. and she kept him isolated from the outside world. When Augusta died in 1945, something changed inside Gein. He sealed off most of the house, leaving only a few rooms he lived in. And according to investigators, this is when his disturbing behavior truly began. Here is something many people don't realize. Ed Gein was not a serial killer in the way movies portray him. Investigators only confirmed 2 murders. But what he did instead may have been even stranger. Gein spent years robbing graves. Late at night, he would visit local cemeteries, dig up recently buried bodies, and bring them back to his farmhouse. Why? Because Gein was attempting something disturbing. He was trying to create what investigators later called a woman suit, a full body covering made from human skin. According to Gein himself, he wanted to wear it so he could become his mother. When the story became public, it shocked the entire country. But it also caught the attention of writers and filmmakers. The first major inspiration appeared in Psycho. The character, Norman Bates, a quiet man living with the memory of his mother, was partly inspired by Gein's obsession. Then, decades later, another character would appear. Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. Just like Gein, he attempted to create a suit made of human skin. And finally, one of the most famous horror villains ever created, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. A killer who wore masks made from human faces. But here's the strange part. The movies made Gein seem like a brutal killing machine. In reality, he rarely left his property. He didn't chase victims with chainsaws. And investigators believe he spent most of his time alone, crafting the disturbing objects inside his house. In fact, some of the items police found included a wastebasket made of human skin, a corset made from a female torso, and masks made from human faces. The crimes were so disturbing that many original crime scene photos are still rarely shown today. Ed Gein was eventually arrested and confessed, but after psychiatric evaluations, he was declared legally insane. Instead of prison, he spent the rest of his life in a mental institution. He died in 1984, but the strange legacy of his crimes never disappeared. Because decades later, his story continues to live on in horror movies. Every time you watch Leatherface, or Norman Bates, or Buffalo Bill, you're seeing pieces of a real case that shocked America. And in many ways, the truth was even more disturbing than the movies.